Alright, I'm back to cover the very final arc for Digimon Adventure 01. Spoiler warning, because there's an 02. But the Dark Master arc, which is supposed to be the culmination of what everything has been leading up to, and it's kind of, yeah. Spoiler warning, but you clicked on the thing. So, why is this kind of... Mostly just kind of the way it plays out, not setup. Because the first episode of the arc, after the 8 Digidestined and their Digimon return to the digital world, it's amazing. Like, the first episode is really great. They come back, and the entire digital world has been remapped, re-put together into Spiral Mountain, which is basically 3 different regions sort of creating a spiral mountain. In the name, it's simple and easy to understand. The seas, the cities, and the forest. And then at the top is a gigantic, ruined, disaster zone, rock quarry, place of darkness. Perfect. Then we get introduced immediately to the Dark Masters. And they pop up and say, alright, let's get them. And each one of them takes a turn at them. Now, it's not like a big brawling fight. It's more of a weird introduction. They show up for all of a minute, show off that they're incredibly powerful, and then the Digidestined just get knocked farther down a hole to the next guy. Starting with Metal Seadramon, who is the Lord of the Oceans, down to Machinedramon, who's Lord of the Cities, to Puppetmon, who's the Lord of the Forests, and finally to Piedmon, who is the Lord of the Castle of Darkness, supposed to be the strongest one, which we know because he's the last guy. Yeah, there's not really a clear who's stronger than who in this, which, as a kid, I always put it to Metal Seadramon was the weakest, and then the next guy's a little stronger, and the next guy's stronger, and the last guy's the strongest of all. But there's really nothing that clearly states this guy is stronger than that guy. It's more presumptiveness. But every one of them is incredibly powerful, so powerful that Piedmon very easily walks through our 2 strongest guys, War Greymon and Metal Garurumon. The guys who helped beat the big bad of the last arc just completely get wiped out by this guy, and he never even tries. Which, in any anime, it's a trope at this point, but it's still really cool to see. Your new big bad shows up and instantly wipes the floor without trying, and it just kind of gives you a little bit of stakes. And this is where everything kind of starts going downhill, because Piximon shows up and helps the Digidestined escape, but he ends up dead. Like, a lot of allies we met over the course of the series do come back in this, and Piximon isn't even the first casualty we see. Chumon, who I never even mentioned, I think, in the first review, he pops up, he's got a friend. They kind of antagonize Mimi a little bit, kind of that juvenile, flirtatious, dirty man type of thing. Well, his buddy's dead, got completely wiped out when the Dark Masters took over. And Chumon even ends up taking a hit to save, it might have been Mimi, and he's gone. Piximon's gone right off the bat. But they do manage to get to Waymon, who takes them out to the sea. Now, they do make a little discovery right off the bat when they end up running into Shellmon, the Digimon from way back at the beginning when Agumon first digivolved into Greymon. And instead of somebody needing to evolve to champion, they just take him out at the rookie level. Which does point out that they are getting stronger. They don't need to digivolve to get stronger, they're just doing it naturally. Now, of course, digivolving makes them much stronger, but the baseline is getting bigger, which is always good to know. It means that this time, we don't have to find an Ultra Digivolution to win. It's a thing, I'll get into it later. But, because they're in the oceans, Metal Seadramon says, I'll do it. He goes after him with a couple of cronies, and does manage to actually deal some damage when he kills Waymon when they decide to try and make a stand against him, because thanks to Izzy's Digimon Analyzer in his computer, they know that War Greymon is specifically designed to take out dragon types, and Metal Seedramon falls into it. It's a little weak, but I'll take it. Waymon's dead. They managed to beat Metal Seedramon. Cool. Except now they've lost a lot of friends real quick. So they're definitely on the back foot of this one. But when Metal Seedramon goes, so do the oceans. They just start disappearing. So now there's just a weird hole in Spiral Mountain. So they move on to the forests. And Metal Seedramon was kind of a boring villain. I'm not big on his look. He looks sleek. He definitely looks like you took the Seedramon from the first arc and leveled him up, and boom, here we go. Alright, not terrible. Not great. But now we're into the forest, which is Puppetmon's domain. And he's my least favorite of the villains. Now, I think they're all well designed, and Puppetmon looks like a puppet, very evil Pinocchio-like. And his hammer is something I'll always remember because it's basically a revolver cylinder in it, and it fires, and it's really cool. It's kind of dumb, but it's really cool. Now, where he fails is in character, because he's very juvenile. Metal Seedramon was very grumpy, angry. Yeah, I'm just gonna do this. I'm not gonna beat around the bush. I'm not gonna screw around. I'm just gonna go do this. Like, I got it. Puppetmon is much more childlike. And I mean that very literally. He has a giant house that looks like a playhouse you'd have as a kid. And he even kidnaps TK to try and get him to play with him, but TK tricks him and runs off. And it's never a good thing for your villain to be tricked by a freaking child. A little child at that. But one thing that does actually kind of make this part interesting is one of his subordinates, Cherrymon, who's just a big tree with cherries, and it's not the worst design. He's kind of interesting. But he convinces Matt that Tai is an enemy, and he's not going to stick up for everybody. It kind of gets into Matt's head, and Matt turns on Tai. Like, no, I should be in charge, all this. And so it's Metal Garurumon versus War Greymon, which is a fight you don't want to see, but at the same time you do want to see. It's one of those types of fights that we don't get. They start fighting, and then it's over. Because we get a nice little backstory catch-up when some form of energy sort of possesses Kari because she's got the Crest of Light and she's got this ability. It kind of leaves it very ambiguous. As I recall, it does get sort of explained later on, way down the line. But this energy kind of goes back and tells him, here's what happened. Years ago, the quote-unquote terrorist attack that happened was actually two Digimon. A Paramon, which was a big jerk, and a Koromon came through. Now, the Koromon ended up in the hands of Kari and Tai, and it was through their connection to it that it was able to digivolve into Agumon and eventually Greymon to protect them from Paramon. And that this was sort of what got the ball rolling in, I'm going to call them the good guys' heads, because they really don't have a name, that humans were important to Digivolution. And so while the gate was open, they started scanning and found 8 individuals who they thought would have the best traits for becoming Digidestined, which would be the Digidestined we know. At the same time of the scan, they found a character trait that was the strongest in them, and that became the Crest. Courage, knowledge, love, hope, etc., etc. Well, while they were constructing the Digivices, the Crests, and finding the Digimon, the Dark Masters attacked, wiped out everybody, and tried to steal everything. Well, Piedmon ended up getting his hands on the Crests, but Genai, now a young, virile, ponytailed gentleman, did manage to get away with the Digivices and most of the eggs. But during the chase, while he was getting away, he dropped Gautamon. Hence why she was raised away from everybody else. But now we kind of get okay, that's what it is. It's not bad. I honestly kind of think it works pretty decently. And this is where the party splits. Because Matt's like, I've got the Crest of Friendship, but I don't understand what that means. Like, I'm not leaving out of anger, I'm not leaving out of disgust. I'm with you guys. But I got to deal with the me thing. So he bows out. Losing half of your heavy hitters Not a good thing. And then on the other side of that, Mimi is like, you know what? I'm done. I'm not dealing with any more loss. I'm not watching my friends die. I'm not watching my friends fight each other. I'm gone. So she's bowing out too. And Joe, being the responsible one, says, all right, I'm going to go with her. You know, it's dangerous out there. Two of us is better than nobody. We'll catch up. And they leave. So the party is now down to almost half its members. And you never split the party for God's sakes, but they did. And so it's time for Puppetmon to go on the warpath. And he does. I'm going to give it to him. His weird cartoonish house comes to life, and it's a big golem-like house. It's silly. It is beyond silly, I'll give it that, but it's that cool kind of silly. Like, there's just enough cool cheese to make it work. And Puppetmon's like, hey, I got this, I'm going to win, until Cherrymon tells him, no, they're going to beat you. You will not defeat them because they have something you don't. Well, he doesn't like that, so he kills Cherrymon right off the bat. Final fight starts happening. Digidestin are busy until Puppetmon ends up accidentally walking into Matt and Metal Garurumon, and Metal Garurumon just wipes him out. Just one energy breath blast, and he goes down. And I'll give it to him. The ending is pretty good, because Puppetmon doesn't go down. He keeps fighting until he's done. And as he's down and his body is just kind of smoking and the little gears in his chest are just ticking down, there's this kind of this like little voiceover, and he's asking, why? What do they have that I don't, that I'll let them beat me? And Cherrymon's voice comes in and says, friends. Which I think was it's a really good moment right there. Like, it's kind of like why didn't you figure that out, man? It's all of them versus you. You should have figured it out. But it kind of adds in a whole other layer because it's Matt doing it. The guy who's trying to understand what friendship is, what it means, all that. And he shows up at the 11th hour and wins the day. It's kind of up there. Another thing that's really interesting coming off of Puppetmon is it's very clear he doesn't understand what friendship is. Friendship is, hey, let's go do something. Let's go run around in the yard with sticks. Let's go do something. But when you hit your friend a little too hard with that stick, you're going to ask him, hey, man, you good? Puppetmon isn't that guy. He'll hit you with a stick and tell you, well, you should have been faster, and hit you again. He's that jerk. Like, everybody grew up with a friend like that, so everybody gets it. So I like that part. And now he's gone, forests are gone, time to move on to the cities. And this is way different, because Machinedramon actually has an army, and they're after him. Like, they're grid searching, very militaristic, very much enjoy this. And we get a little bit of backstory from Tai, because Kari gets sick, so him and Izzy run out to find medicine, and Tai tells him, well, she was sick years ago, she was really sick, like, we were really little kids, and I wanted to go play soccer, so I drug her out, and we played soccer until she collapsed, and he always blamed himself for it. And then on the other side of that is, Kari apologized to him, like, hey, I'm sorry, I got sick and we couldn't play. Like, it's that very kid thing that you do when you're a kid. Your sibling wants to go out and play, but you're too sick, so you go out anyway. And then you're like, no, I can't do this. So that's really good. That's really interesting. It kind of adds a layer to Tai, why he's now kind of becoming what we saw Matt be at the very beginning of the show. Very protective, very one note, this is my number one priority. Meanwhile, Machinedramon and his army have decided, we can't find him, we're just going scorched earth. We're just going to start blowing up every single block. We're either going to get him or flush him out. Very good. Of the four, this is my favorite tactic, because it actually makes sense. And they just start doing it. So, Sora and Kari, everybody else runs underground. They're trying to get away. Run into prisoners, Numamon, again, because they're kind of the punching bag. They're running, they're enslaved, and then the light sort of takes over Kari again, or she taps into something, and sort of turns a bad Digimon who's whipping them good. And so he stands up to Machinedramon, but he gets blown up. Then the Numamon stand up to him, and they get blown up, which is actually a really cool shot, because they try covering him, and then he just swipes and they're gone. Very, very good power scaling on that one. So I got to give points there. Ty and Izzy come down. They end up running into Andromon, who's trying to build up a resistance to fight the Dark Masters. And he's like, let's do this. I'm on your side. Where Greymon comes out, ends Machine Dramon. In a kind of a bad way. Now, we've already built up how strong these guys are, and they've kind of been going down a little soft. Like, there's never a big knockout draw fight like we had with Myotismon. At least at the end of his arc. But, again, it's a very kind of samurai-like. They square up, charge, one goes past the other, and then what's going to happen, and Machine Dramon falls apart and vanishes. It's cool. Like, even as a kid, I was like, man, that was really cool, but as an adult, it's just kind of not working for me. Like, there's enough cool, but there's just enough kind of jumping ahead too far. Like I missed an episode. Like, where they fought and then finally headed out. But cities are gone, moving on to face Piedmon. And unfortunately for them, this guy is, the best way to describe him is confident, but not overly confident. This guy instantly knows, I got this. I'm not going to worry. He doesn't run into the fight. He literally walks to them. And Angelmon comes out to fight Lady Devimon, which I'll give it to him. I do enjoy sort of evil components, evil copies of our heroes. Spider-Man and Venom. Similar power sets, kind of evil. Flash, Reverse Flash, good guy, evil version with same powers. Green Lantern and Sinestro, same deal. And Lady Devimon kind of, it's a bit of a mouthful, and fight's over, Angelmon wins, cool. And the first thing Piedmon does when he squares up is, like, not even try. He's just kind of having fun with the fight. And this is where I kind of got a break off to cover the other two journeys. And I'll start with Joe and Mimi, because they walked off, they're just doing their own thing. Well, over the course of it, they run into Ogremon again, who's hurt. He's just trying to survive. And Leomon. Only where Ogremon has been a jerk, and he's on the run, and he's hurt now. Leomon has been a champion of the people, and now has the ability to warp Digivolve into Saber Leomon, his Mega form. So there's just kind of that really nice, be a good guy, you get good things, be a bad guy, and you end up with a busted arm. And these guys are still rivals, but Ogremon has mellowed out. And it's made clear that Primary Village, where Digimon are reborn after they're destroyed, is broken. Nobody's coming back anymore. Until all the Dark Masters are defeated, nobody can come back. And that's when we get a brand new guy showing up. Well, an old enemy with a new face. Edamon is back, only now he's evolved into Metal Edamon. And same personality, shiny body. He sticks around for maybe 3 episodes maybe. And he kind of shows up, fights Puppamon for a bit, and then runs out. And squares off with Saber Leomon and Zudomon. And ends up killing Saber Leomon after he jumps in front of a blast meant for Mimi. And he goes down, but he manages to beat Metal Edamon after Zudomon cracks his body. I'm not 100% sure on how that works, but it's still really cool. And Leomon dies, and Ogremon has decided, now I'm going to step up and be a hero. I've got to fill this role of my old enemy. It's a really good character moment, kind of interesting. And this starts the we're putting a team together type of thing. Because they pick up Elecmon, the guy who used to guard Primary Village, Unimon from Spiralmon from File Island at the very beginning, several others, and alright, let's do this. So Mimi starts heading up to help the others at the top of Spiral Mountain, and Joe goes off looking for Matt. Matt, meanwhile, is fallen into a really weird, evil depression, which is manifesting itself as a cave, and he's isolated and he's alone. Sort of everything bad he's feeling is just becoming both real and sort of amplifying itself until Gabumon finally manages to break through to him, like, you're not alone, I'm your friend, and I'm not leaving. It's alright to feel upsetty spaghetti, but there's always people here for you. And that breaks him out, and he's ready to rock. And Joe shows up, and let's do this. So, Metal Garurumon, Matt, Joe, and Gomamon show up, and now the fight's ready to rock. Matt's Crest of Friendship even manages to recharge War Greymon for the next fight, and everything goes left, which is really interesting. I do love that, because, again, the friend shows up, and now everybody's back to full strength, everybody's ready to fight, and they beat the bad guy. It's a bit of a trope in anime, so to have that happen, and then have the bad guy start turning everybody into keychains. Everybody into keychains. He throws like a handkerchief that grows and wraps around everybody, and then when it floats away, they're a keychain. War Greymon, Metal Garurumon, down. Tai, Matt, down. Sora, Garudamon, down. Gatomon, down. Joe, Gomamon, down. Izzy, Tentamon, down. Until eventually it's just Kari, TK, and Angemon, and they're trying to get away. Like, they get to the top of the fortress, and it's just a rope from a basket going up. Like, it's going nowhere, but it's all we got. So TK tells Kari, start climbing, we gotta go. And Angemon tries to hold up Piedmon off, and granted, Angemon does have a type advantage, so we do know he'll do some damage, but the power scaling there is still too much, and Angemon gets basically stabbed right off the side of the fortress. So he's falling, and Piedmon's like, you know what, I'm not screwing with this, and he just cuts the rope. So the kids start falling, TK's got a hold of Kari, Angemon's a good 60, 70 feet below them falling, and TK's just telling himself, no, my brother wouldn't give up, I'm not giving up, we're gonna make it through this. And that activates his crest, which allows Angemon to finally digivolve into Magna Angemon. And he grabs the kids, uses an energy sword to slash Piedmon. Swords are cool. Energy swords are better. Said what I said. And they get the keychains, and Angemon manages to restore everybody. So everybody's back. Like, alright, final fight. And now Piedmon's back, and he's got like a little gremlin Digimon. I think they're called Vilemon. And now Mimi shows up with her Avengers. So everybody can deal with the army while the big guys deal with Piedmon. Everybody digivolves to max and starts fighting. And Magna Angemon kind of comes through with the W on this one because of his attack, Gate of Destiny, which basically creates a gigantic Stargate-looking thing that opens up and sucks a bunch of the Vilemon in, and then Piedmon gets blown in, it closes, and vanishes. I kind of like it. It's just weird enough to kind of work. So, I'll give it to him. The day is saved, except it's not. Yep. Come to find out there was something else, more evil, behind a literal firewall after Genai sort of meets up with a guy and they're talking. Like, it was a literal wall of fire, and whatever was behind it was what was actually causing all this. Something even more powerful than the Dark Masters, which is where we go, because now with all the Dark Masters gone, naturally all their regions vanishing as they do, now there's no top to Spiral Mountain, and they fall into nothingness until they sort of stop. I'm not sure how that works, but alright. And we get introduced to Apocalypse. Now, Apocalypse is the leftover data from all the Digivolutions that's been going on. And he's dark. He is very dark. The kind of dark character you only get because they're lonely. Like, he doesn't know people. Nothing of that works in his head. He's kind of been drugged through the mud too much that he can't anymore. Like, he just wants destruction. The end. And I don't know much about the Japanese cut, but I do know this. He was way worse in the Japanese version. Way more off his rocker, self-mutilation levels. He was dark. And the very first thing he does is de-digivolve everybody back down to their rookie levels, or back to Gatomon, because we don't see Salamon much. It's all Gatomon all the time. Then he destroys the crests. Then he deletes everybody. And I mean deletes. And they wake up in a white area that's all ones and zeros floating around. Like, that's big. And this is where everything goes really hard left, and I don't think it ever recovers from this part. So they start talking, and they realize that my crest of courage isn't just for me, it's for you guys. Your courage fuels me, mine fuels you. Oh, my knowledge fuels me, and it fuels you, and yours fuels me. And they start realizing, we kind of power each other up as much as we do ourselves. And that sort of brings them back to the real world. And everybody digivolves back to the max, and big battle starts. Instantly cutting their way through Apocalypse, who has the weird ability to turn like his metal tentacle whatchamathings into the previous villains they've defeated, like the Dark Masters or Myotismon, and use their attacks. And they just smash right through him until they get right to Apocalypse. They smash through everything he's got, and they're ready to take him down. And like a bitch, yeah, he decides, I'm going to go the Cell way and just blow myself up. And so he's going to blow himself up, only this is going to destroy the digital world and the real world. Everything's in danger. And then the Digivices activate, and we kind of get a little bit of the payoff that we set up way back at the beginning, where they've got some weird light energy that comes out of them that helps beat evil. Because all 8 Digivices activate and create corners of a cube, each connecting to each other to trap Apocalypse in his self-destruct, which doesn't do anything. He basically just blows himself up, and for nothing. It's a little bit out of left field, but at the same time, it actually pays off really well, something set up long ago. And that's always something, as a writer and a fan of things, I enjoy. Like, if you set up beating the bad guy 60 episodes ago, alright. I just still don't like they brought themselves back together because they believed in each other. It's a little thin. Having said that, I don't think somebody going into the trash can and hitting restore would have worked as well. So, what do I know? And the digital world is officially reborn. Primary Village is back. Everybody's back. We got this. Until Jedi shows up, because, hey, it's the end of the show. We've got all of 10 minutes left. Time to chop everybody in the shins. So now that Apocalypse is defeated, the digital world and the human world are starting to move apart again. Which means in about a half hour, the gate's closed and nobody's going back and forth. So the Digidestined have to say goodbye. And I'll definitely give the dub this. It tugs on the heartstrings pretty good. But none of them does it quite as well as Mimi and Palmon. Because Palmon is, no, I'm not saying goodbye, I'm not doing this, and just takes off, just runs. So Mimi's completely heartbroken because her best friend has just run off. Like, she doesn't get the opportunity to say goodbye or any closure there. Whereas everybody else is able to say, we had a hell of a good time. I'm going to miss you, all that. And so everybody gets on the trolley car from episode 3, because callbacks are good, and it starts moving to take them home. When Palmon comes running out, and the Digimon start running, and Palmon's screaming, I'm sorry I ran away, I love you, I'll miss you, and Mimi sticks her head out, and she's crying, like, I'll miss you too. Her hat goes flying, and it's a really good shot. It's a really good scene. The musical choice, which I really should talk about, because the music isn't spectacular for the fight scenes, especially later on, because they just throw in an original song, so points there, but it's all of 15 seconds of a song for the I just digivolved to this level, I blow up the enemy, the song ends. It's taken longer to explain it than the song usually plays. But this actually plays out for probably a good 30 seconds, 40 seconds. So we really get to kind of enjoy the song. And I don't even think we ever heard the song in the show up until this point. So extra points are there on that one. The song, if you're going to look it up, is Hey Digimon. It's not terrible. It's actually pretty good for a kid's show from the late 90s. Or really early 2000s. Somewhere in there. But, so that's the end of Digimon Adventure 01. And this arc is fine. Do I hate it? No. I think that where it falls apart is the video game aesthetic. And what I mean by that is there are areas and a boss. You beat the boss, you go to the next area. You beat the boss, you go to the next area. Like, it works in video games because you've kind of got to set up the protagonist getting stronger. Except these guys really don't get stronger. They digivolve, but we are shown in the first episode that even our two strongest guys aren't even enough to make one of them flinch. And then pretty soon it turns into wham, 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 they're done. So that doesn't work. Another thing that doesn't work is the idea of stupid villains. It's something I'll give to a tournament arc. Because you have the bad team, they're all bad guys, we gotta beat them. How come they aren't just wiping out the good guys? It's because it's a tournament setting, it's gotta be one-on-one. And this, we're shown right away that the Dark Masters are together and could easily have wiped out the Digidestin instead of screwing around. But the first thing they did was start screwing around. And then after that, it wasn't, hey, let's just all get them. Let's take everything we got and just get them. It'd be easy. We could knock it out in probably a weekend. And instead it's, well, they're in my area. I call dibs. It's dumb. It's dumb villainy. And again, every genre, live action, animated, anime, novels, a lot of them do it. Like, the very top percentile of things manage to find some way around it. So it holds it back, but everything kind of falls into that same category. So I can't really say it sucks. The character work is actually pretty decent. Now, we don't get anything for, like, Izzy or Sora. They've kind of come through everything they're going to do. Mimi has finally stepped up and it kind of embraced her heroic role. Like, she quit. She was done. I can't do it. I'm out. And she ends up being one of the voices that says, hey, we've got to do something here. Let's get as many people as we can together and let's go kick ass. Really interesting turn there. Joe doesn't get much. But one thing that is interesting is that he has really officially come into his role as, I don't want to say caretaker, but it's almost like a second in command. Like, okay, Mimi is in more danger than Matt's going to be in, so I'm going with her. I'm going to make sure she's okay. Mimi's deciding it's time to fight. All right, cool. You and Ogremon go get everybody together. I'm going to go get Matt. Like, I'm going to make sure Matt's good. He goes and he gets Matt. Matt's good. And they come to fight. Really interesting work there. Kari is just kind of there. Really, she is there to serve the backstory plot and the little bit of the backstory for Tai. She doesn't really get too much. TK gets a really interesting moment because he outsmarts Puppetmon, and it's his crest that activates that ultimately helps them save the day. So, really good work there. Matt, kind of interesting. He's kind of been more of the most conflicted character from start to finish. He did get better right after the defeat of Devamon, and now he doesn't. It's nowhere near as bothersome about everybody making sure his brother's okay. And then he kind of falls into that depression, and because he just got into his head he wasn't good enough, and Tai was better, and everybody thought he was better. It's a little thin for me. I get it, because even as a fan, Tai was always like, he's the cool one. So I kind of get that. They work it out well enough. And to have his relationship with Gabumon be what ultimately brings him out of it, interesting. Works out, pays off, perfect. Tai, again, doesn't get a whole lot. Kind of conflicts with Matt, but Tai's instantly over it. Like, we fought, we're cool. It's done. Very, very friend-like. Like, we argued, we threw some punches, we're good now. It's burned off. having him worry about Kari is a nice little kind of mirror image of Matt at the beginning. And then to actually go into why is he like this, I think was doing the Matt story a little bit better. Because with Matt, the most we really got out of it is he's my little brother. That's it. That was a little thin, understandable, but thin. This, a little better. So how does it all wrap up? Pretty fine. Again, we got some callbacks to the beginning. Everything kind of came full circle at the end. So it all worked out. And with that, have a nice day.